Okay, I'll give everyone a second to get logged in here. The chat window is open, so whatever platform you're watching on, you should be able to chat with us. If you are watching on Twitter and you're having trouble chatting, check it out at youtube.com/KevinLeeFather. We're streaming live there right now. Sometimes YouTube's easier to chat with. There's more people following on Twitter typically, so if you have Twitter on your phone and you're having difficulty chatting, then get the Periscope app as well. Same company, Twitter, Periscope, blah, blah, blah. So when you log into Periscope, you use your Twitter ID in order to log into Periscope, and that should work for people. We have a complete nutty meltdown of the president today. He goes on to, you know what? We should just watch. And I got a few fact checks along the way. As soon as I see people starting to log in here, I will get going. What we're going to do is, it's over an hour long. There's a bunch of speakers that don't really say a whole lot except what's going on. Kathleen, welcome. No, you haven't missed anything yet. We haven't gotten started yet. So we'll play the president, we'll play a little bit of a speaker, and then we'll skip right to the questions where Trump goes against his intel community again and accuses China of creating the virus in a lab. At least he has high confidence that that's the case. Which from the beginning, if you remember, Dr. Fauci, and I don't have the video queued up, but Dr. Fauci said way back at the beginning, there's absolutely no reason to believe this wasn't a naturally occurring virus. We have the pattern, we have the RNA, everything about this virus is consistent with nature making the virus itself. If it was some kind of bioweapon, it would be changed, so it would be much deadlier than it is now. So there's no reason at all to suspect the Chinese created this and then released it accidentally or otherwise, because it's a naturally occurring virus. If you're going to do that, you do it better. Okay. How about Michigan? A nice lake. Reminds me of an oven mitt. I don't know. Very close to Canada. They love hockey in Michigan, so I'm all about Michigan. Okay, here we go, kids. Let's get this show started.
Well, thank you very much. Please.
Let me know if Trump's too quiet or too loud. I'll adjust the volume as we go here.
I'll sign a proclamation declaring the month of May to be Older Americans Month. I don't know if I'm in that category.
He is.
I have a feeling I am, but I feel good. And our country is making a lot of progress, Alex. I want to tell you that, making a lot of progress. As we honor the incredible contributions of our nation's seniors, we're here today to discuss the unprecedented steps that we're taking to protect our seniors from the virus. I'll also announce vital new actions to safeguard our nursing homes and most vulnerable citizens as we gradually and safely reopen our country, and it's very exciting to see what's happening. Today by Secretary Alex Azar.
Secretary
Robert Wilkie. Robert, thank you very much.
He welcomes everybody. Moving on.
And many outstanding advocates for America's seniors.
I'm skipping ahead here because I already watched this. So you don't have to.
Tragically have seen
You're
the virus
welcome.
Poses the greatest risk to older Americans.
The greatest risk.
Together as one nation, we mourn for
He's
every
very
precious
slurry
life
today.
that has been lost.
No, this is delayed.
And there have been many. We're so saddened by it. Through our aggressive actions and the devotion of our doctors and nurses, however, we have held our fatality rate far below hard-hit other countries such as Spain and Italy and United Kingdom and Sweden. We're way below other countries.
Well, there's a reason for that. The virus hasn't hit everywhere in our country
yet.
yet.
At our disposal to protect our seniors and Americans of every age and background. Early on, we implemented life-saving travel restrictions and directed billions of dollars toward the development of therapies and vaccines, and that's moving along rapidly. We've moved at a speed that people are absolutely stunned to see.
No,
we
didn't have any testing for the first 2 months, and that's why we have 60,000 dead.
Showing encouraging preliminary results. That
preliminary
was the story yesterday was announced by Gilead.
He said a name.
In early March,
that's how he likes to
Gilead. Nursing homes to suspend all medically unnecessary visits to help slow the spread and to protect our seniors, and especially in our nursing homes. They are having a hard time in those nursing homes. We took action to step up enforcement of infectious disease standards at nursing homes all across America.
They did.
We also acted swiftly to secure our veterans' healthcare facilities and deployed hundreds of VA staff to help out in nursing homes nationwide. And we're being helped very greatly by the passage of all of the things that we got passed, Robert, especially choice, so that people can go and see their doctor when they have to. And especially
that choice was passed under Obama, but moving on.
We provided nearly $1 billion in grants to support home-delivered meals, in home care, and other services that make it impossible for older people to just do what they want to do. We're helping older people with disabilities, and we're helping them to live independently. We dramatically...
Quick side note here. The Trump administration tried to cut the Meals on Wheels budget, the budget that the federal government gives to them. Now, Meals on Wheels gets money from all sorts of different sources, but the federal government said, well, we should cut our portion of it, and other companies and financial institutions and people, etc., would make up for the difference of the millions of dollars. I want to say it was about $300 million. I don't know the exact number, but basically saying like, hey, let private enterprise take over Meals on Wheels. Anyway, let's get back to Trump talking to the seniors.
We expanded access to telehealth, a very big deal. For Medicare beneficiaries, the number of Medicare patients using telehealth has increased from
only Rome. He calls everyone Mike. He has Mikes and Steve in his administration. That's it.
650,000 people a week. So that's from 11,000 a week to 650,000. That's almost an impossible number to believe, right?
No,
but it's really,
I mean, everyone's staying home.
It's really something. They get used to it, and a lot of that's going to be staying with us long after this horrible scourge is gone.
I hope so.
Medicare is also paying for labs to provide seniors with at-home testing when appropriate at zero cost to patients. We've ensured a ventilator for every patient who needs one. Nobody who's needed a ventilator has been without a ventilator. It's an incredible achievement. And we now have thousands and thousands of ventilators, and other countries are asking us for help, and we're helping other countries, allies, and some that aren't necessarily allies.
Important point here, all those people that we now know died at home instead of going to the hospital. And the way this disease works in a lot of cases is you feel pretty bad, and then you start to feel better, and then boom, in an hour, you're right down to ground zero. And a lot of people have not made it to the hospital where they could have used a ventilator because of fear or because of reports of or being told to stay in. I mean, a number of different reasons. It really doesn't matter. But the bottom line is we can't really say, and this was pointed out by @random on Twitter, that everybody who needed a ventilator got a ventilator. Everybody who was in a hospital and needed a ventilator got a ventilator. But a lot of folks living in the old folks' homes or just being at home died because they didn't have access to a ventilator. Moving on.
But they're in big trouble, and we're helping other countries now with ventilators. You know, same thing with masks. We have millions and millions of masks. That was something 4 weeks ago was difficult, and now we have millions of masks coming in and already here. The federal
It's not what he was saying 4 weeks ago.
Over 35,000 members of the National Guard to help states deliver critical supplies to nursing homes and to assist with disinfecting and testing. I'd like to ask General Lengal to please come up, say a few words about the work of the National Guard. It's been really fantastic. Thank you. General, please.
Safe here at home and abroad. Today, over 83,000 men and women of the National Guard are engaged at home and abroad, and 45,000 of those are engaged directly in the COVID-19 response.
Very
From running
cool.
hundreds of testing sites around the country to screening passengers at airports to helping manufacture PPE to a myriad of other tasks, the National Guard is there. We know this virus doesn't treat everyone equally, and our senior citizens are at increased risk. In many states, governors have directed National Guard members to help sanitize long-term care facilities, nursing homes, giving older citizens and families and caregivers peace of mind that their environments are safe.
Here we go. Pretty cool guy.
and women.
Moving
A lot of
on.
great success and
Well, let's go back to see what he says here.
Talk about the Guard today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, General. That's great.
National Guard, ladies and gentlemen.
4 stars. That's a lot of stars. Very impressive. That's
That
right,
is-
but that's
yeah.
okay. That's very impressive. You
4
deserve
stars
it.
is okay.
I do want to say, you mentioned the word governor, and we've had a lot of great success and relationship with the governors.
It's always
We've
relationships.
dealt with our governors very, very well. We have really, I think, got to understand each other, know each other, in many cases really like each other, and that's worked out very well.
They're all
We had
friends.
Phil Murphy here from New Jersey, governor of New Jersey today, wonderful man.
Great
A lot of
state.
progress is being made there.
Beautiful
and we
state.
had John Bell Edwards yesterday from Louisiana, and Ron DeSantis the day before from Florida, with just tremendous progress. 3 very exceptional men, and they're doing a really good job, as you know.
Haven't
As
had
you
that
know.
woman
And we have others coming in. They'll come
from
in
Michigan. Speaking of
1 or 2 a
Michigan,
day, and we're seeing them, and whatever we can help them with, we help them with, and we help them with very, very quickly, General, right? So it's been very good. My administration is doing everything possible to support the state-led management of nursing homes, and here today is a governor who I happen to like a lot. And he's done
Oh.
a fantastic job in a fantastic
Relationships.
state, a state that I happen to like a lot. It's called Tennessee. For some reason, they like me. I haven't figured that out, but they like me in Tennessee, so that's good, Bill. Please come up. Governor Bill Lee, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to your team, many in this room that we have worked with. You are guiding America through a tremendous crisis, and you're doing it incredibly well, and America's very grateful for that.
wow,
And
incredibly
we are
well.
grateful in Tennessee for the partnership between the federal government and states like ours
Only 60,000 dead.
as we work to make our contribution to fighting COVID-19. We can do so because of the work that you're doing and the way that you're supporting what we're doing. So, Mr. President, you've asked states to commit to a goal of testing 2% of their population. In April, 2% of Tennesseans were tested. And we have tested over 175,000 to date. But as we look to May, to build upon that, we're actually strengthening our commitment, particularly to the elderly, the most vulnerable of our citizens, especially those in nursing homes.
Hey, if you want stuff for your state, you compliment the king. Now, that's all. You kiss his ring, and that's how this country works right now. Remember Hurricane Sandy? Remember what Obama did after Hurricane Sandy? He went to Jersey and gave Chris Christie a kind of a hug. Didn't actually hug him, but believe it or not, I saw a survey a couple of years ago when Chris Christie was running for president, and 54% of Republicans said that the hug with Obama was the reason they didn't like Chris Christie. There was no hug. There was a handshake and a glad hand on the back, but there was no actual hug. But that's what a president does. Even when you have somebody who is extremely critical of you on a regular basis, you're the president of the whole country, not just your states. Anyway, moving on.
You know, there's a scripture describes being hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. And that's where we are in Tennessee. I think that's where we are.
Does anybody know what chapter of the Bible, what book of the Bible that is from? Hard pressed on many sides, but not crushed. Anyone? Anyone?
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians.
Yeah, he's actually correct. It's we say 2 Corinthians. He says 2 Corinthians, but he's actually that is from 2 Corinthians. Let's skip ahead here because this is a lot of stuff, and then we get to Trump's questions. Let me find Trump's questions. There we go. Oh yeah. So after this, he signs. So he has a bunch of people come up and stand next to each other because social distancing. And then what does he do? Hey, do you want a pen? Here, let me touch all these pens. Let me smile. Yay, so happy. Aw, you did it. You signed something. So that's declaring a National Old People Month for next month. And then he gets his virus all over the pens. And just in case he didn't get any virus, They're going to be handed out from person to person who will all spread that virus along. Okay. So there's the Penn situation. Moving on.
John, please. I guess. Not a wise one, but
if we could venture straight into other territory, the Vice President said just a short time ago he believes that General Michael Flynn may have unintentionally lied to him or misspoken when he talked to him and did not include his meeting with the Russian ambassador to the United States.
Yeah.
Do you believe that General Flynn may have unintentionally misled the Vice President?
Well, I really have to talk to the Vice President, but I'll tell you what, General Flynn was under enormous pressure, and it was an artificial pressure because what they did to General Flynn was a disgrace. Well, it was a total disgrace. It's shocking. And I hear even more information came out today. What they tried to do to destroy him and to hurt this presidency was perhaps in our country's history, there's never been anything like it. An absolute disgrace. But I'll rely on what the Vice President said. I can say this, and I think you understand this, John, very well. What happened to General Flynn should never happen again to a citizen of this country. Yes, please.
Let's just quickly review what happened to General Flynn. He was working for Turkey and didn't report it. You can't do that. You can't work for a foreign government. He called up Russia and told them not to worry about the sanctions in between the election and actually Trump taking office. So that's illegal. That's the Logan Act. And the FBI knew that. So they went and they interviewed him and said, hey, did you do this? And he lied to the FBI, which then prompted Trump to fire him. And in case you don't remember, there's a couple of pieces of evidence. Here's Trump talking about firing him because he lied to the vice president. And when you lie to the vice president and you lie to the FBI, then you're compromised. And if somebody wants to blackmail you, they can't because information is out there about you lying and committing crimes. So that can be used as blackmail. And if you're head of the NSC, if you're the National Security Advisor, you're not somebody who should be in a compromised position. Let's listen to what Trump said at the time.
Mike Flynn is a fine person, and I asked for his resignation. He respectfully gave it. He is a man who there was a certain amount of information given to Vice President Pence, who's with us today. But the thing is, he didn't tell our Vice President properly, and then he said he didn't remember. So either way, it wasn't very satisfactory to me. He didn't tell the Vice President of the United States the facts, and then he didn't remember, and that just wasn't acceptable to me. Excuse me. No, I fired him because of what he said to Mike Pence. Very simple.
All right, just go ahead and block Jack. He's an idiot. And in case, Jack, if you're still listening at this point, here's what the president said in terms of having to fire. This is from 2nd December 2017, which is later in the year. Of course, he had to fire him in January of 2017. I had to fire General Flynn because he lied to the vice president. Okay, and the FBI. There's Trump saying General Flynn lied to the FBI, which, as we all know now, is a crime, which he must have known because he was a former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which he was so incompetent at as a manager of the entire Defense Intelligence Agency, Obama had to fire him. So, and it was under suspicion at the time that he was also working for foreign governments, which it turns out he was. He has pled guilty those lies. It's a shame because his actions during the transitions were lawful. There was nothing to hide. Yeah. So why did he plead? Why did he lie about it if it wasn't anything so bad? And honestly, if he had just said, yeah, I talked to Russia about the sanctions, it's the Logan Act. Nobody has ever been successfully prosecuted under the Logan Act. So if nothing else, he's guilty of being an idiot. Why would you? No, I've never jaywalked. No, Mr. FBI agent, I would never do something like. No, I didn't take those labels off that mattress. Just tell the truth. Moving on. All right, I'm going to block Jack here. Let's all blackjack? Block Jack. I'm playing blackjack, blue blackjack, and block user. Okay, he's gone. It's as simple as that, guys. Then he's gone from your feed. Okay, moving on with the conference here. Just in case you all were confused about General Flynn, yeah, he did some bad things. He committed some crimes, and then he was really, really stupid. I also have the the actual notes from the FBI that everybody's talking about today, the revelation that the FBI was doing their job. If you guys want to look at that, we can look at that. Let me know. We'll look at that later. If not, let's get back to the rant. Here we go. Coronapalooza.
Said that Michael Flynn would come back even bigger and better. So are you going to pardon him? And if so, are you considering to bring him back into your administration?
Well, it looks to me like Michael Flynn would be exonerated.
This is C-SPAN pausing. I didn't do that.
Based on everything I see. Look, I'm not the judge, but I have a different type of power. But I don't know that anybody would have to use that power. I think he's exonerated everything. I've never seen anything like it. What they did, what they
He's
wrote,
never seen
you
anything,
see this, General, you
ever.
want this happening to you, what they did to General Flynn. And it's just disgraceful. So, you know, I guess we'll get to that maybe someday or maybe not. Hopefully we won't have to get there.
Hold on. It's coming.
Bring him back into your administration.
Well, I think he's a fine man. I think it's terrible what they did to him. It's something that...
And you fired him. This is, by the way, C-SPAN's pausing. I'm
nobody's
not doing
asked
this.
me, but you're asking me for the first time. I would certainly consider it. Yeah, I would.
There we go.
I think he's a fine man. I think he's got a great family. He loves his son. I will tell you, his son was around a lot, and he loves his son, and as people generally do.
Son was a big Pizzagate guy.
They did everything possible to destroy him.
As people generally do.
He's still breathing very strongly, but they really
Like I do with
very unfair.
Don Jr. and not Eric, but Melania's son.
Coronavirus-related question, but in what capacity would you bring him back?
Well, look, I mean, I'm not...
Guys, this is just what C-SPAN does.
This is really the first time I've been asked the question, but I think he'll be fully exonerated one way or the other, and so certainly he'd be capable of coming back. He suffered greatly.
You about comments by your son-in-law. One of your top advisors, Jared Kushner, yesterday said that the government's response has been a, quote, great success story.
Great success.
Is that the right
Can you
tone?
lift that up a little bit?
No problem. Your son-in-law, one of your top advisors,
Yes,
Jared
yeah.
Kushner, yesterday said the government's response has been a, quote, great success story. Is that the right tone and message
Well, it's
at
just
a
he's
moment
saying the
when
facts.
people
I
are
mean,
still
he's not
dying?
talking about
He's just saying the facts.
other things that I talk about in my speech today that I speak about all the time, and that's death. It's horrible that what this country's gone through and what the world has gone through, frankly. This is something could have been contained at the original location, and I think it could have been contained relatively easily. China's a very sophisticated country, and they could have contained it. They were either unable to or they chose not to, and the world has suffered greatly. But
unable
what
to.
Jared was talking about,
You just said
what
it.
I talk about a lot is, no, I don't think anybody's done the job that we've done, other
Yeah, it's possible, Rick.
than,
Rich, he might have said,
relations,
say it
because the
again,
press just
so
won't,
that he had time to think.
talk about the facts. We had
I just said Trump wanted to think. Trump.
problem that was caused by the fact that we
Good
weren't
one.
left ventilators by a previous administration. The cupboards were bare, as I say often. And
He
not
does say
only
that
were
often.
cupboard-
So let's just explore that for a second. Was Trump left any ventilators? Because now he's saying there were none. The cupboards were bare. We had no ammunition. The cupboards were bare. I like to say, he's very clever with that. As I like to say, the cupboards were bare. Let's go to Seema Verma. She is currently on the White House task force for coronavirus. Seema, what have you got to say about that? Did we have any ventilators? Did we have a stockpile?
So one of the things that we have to prepare for situations like this is a stockpile. And there's over 12, almost 13,000 ventilators that we have, so that if communities, hospitals, other organizations, need to have these ventilators, we can ship that out to them. So.
Okay, so there were 13,000 ventilators available in the stockpile. Moving on.
It's full now. We have ventilators. We're the king in the world of ventilators. We have thousands and thousands of them now being delivered. You were at the news conferences over the last few days. The governors they said we've never had a case where we couldn't get a ventilator. And a month and a half ago, you were screaming, ventilator. I'm just
Screaming
looking at the test numbers.
ventilator,
We have more
ventilator.
tests. We've given more tests and the high-quality tests than every other country combined. And I say it, the friend of mine, South Korea President Moon, called me. You know, they talk about South Korea, and they've done a really good job. But he said,
South
"What
Korea,
job
no, they
you've
have done a really
It's
good
much
job.
bigger
230
country, you
deaths
understand?" Said,
yesterday.
"What a job you've done on testing."
No
So
new
the
cases in
testing and
South
the
Korea
masks and
yesterday
all of the things,
from
we've solved every
inside the
problem.
country.
We've
They've
solved it
solved the
quickly.
community spread
But to think that now we're giving
by testing
thousands
early.
of ventilators.
All right, sorry, guys.
Other countries, allies, and other than allies, to be honest, but we're helping other countries where people are dying because we have ventilators and nobody else does to this extent. And it's a great tribute. I mean, Deborah, we were talking about that before. Deborah Birx, Dr. Birx, has been fantastic. She's a fantastic person, a fantastic woman. And we talk about the things that we've done in a short
And
period
that
of
is
time.
fantastic tablecloth.
All you heard about was ventilators.
Must be
That's a
cold in
hard
the East
thing.
Room.
We energized factories that didn't build ventilators, They were building cars and other thousands a week. And it's been very spectacular. It's been really spectacular. So, yeah, I don't think anybody's done a better job with testing, with ventilators, with
South
all
Korea,
the things
remember
that
your
we've done.
friend?
And our death totals, our numbers per million people are really very, very strong. We're very proud of the job we've done. We had very little to work with because the previous administration left.
I'm not even going to talk about the death figures being very, very strong. Okay, I am, a little bit. For example, just say Norway. He talks about Norway a little bit later. Norway has a death figure of, it's 0.00003%. Ours is 3 times higher than that. Moving on.
Left us very little.
Quick
Please
follow,
go
Mr.
ahead.
President.
Mr. President,
Go ahead. Why don't you go and then you go?
Thank you, Mr. President. You signed that executive order this morning dealing with the counter-narcotics operations that you have going on in the Western Hemisphere right now. Why the need for more manpower? And do you think your government is any closer to the goal of having Nicolas Maduro leave office?
Well, I need it and I sign it, and we do have executive orders, and they help us a lot, and they've helped us a very lot here. We also
A very
signed
lot.
Things having to do with production, as you know. I've used that very, very powerfully, the act. And oftentimes I didn't have to use it. I just had to talk about it. No, I'm only signing when we want something, when we need additional manpower or brain power or whatever it is we're looking for at the time. But we've done things that I don't think anybody else has been able to do what we've done. And this is a big country, too. This is a very big country, as you know. And I'm very proud of the country. I'm very proud
Anybody
of
else
the way
able to do
they've
what?
stepped up. Now, things are opening. As an example, Governor Lee is doing a great job in opening up Tennessee, and he's opening it up rapidly and safely. I think he said to me 2 words, I think, about safe and rapid. And I think safe was the first one you mentioned, in all fairness, but it was safe and rapid. He's doing it quickly and safely, and Tennessee's a great story. But we have other governors, friends of both of ours, that are doing really good job.
Governors, friends,
I will
friends,
say this,
friends.
Governor Murphy and Governor Cuomo have a tougher situation because that's really a hotbed. It's a very, very dense area. People don't realize. I think New Jersey, believe it or not, is the single most dense area in the country. Who would think that? But the governor's done a terrific job. And
Let me show you a
Governor
dense
Cuomo,
area.
likewise, is working very, very hard and speaking to me all the time. And whenever we can help him, we do. And we're helping him, and he's helping his state. That's what he has to do. Thank you.
How is the operation going, though? And do you feel, my second question was, do you feel you're any closer to having Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela?
I think the operation is doing really well. I think that things are being discovered that you wouldn't have thought possible. The Abbott machine, Abbott Laboratories, a great scientific company. They came up with a machine that I would say 2 months ago, nobody ever heard of this machine.
The Abbott machine, it used to be called the Elite Eye. It's now called the Abbott Now. It's been around since 2015. So it's just now they developed a test for coronavirus that can go into that machine. But the machine has been around quite a while. And if you remember, I don't have the video of this, but I can find it. Trump took it out of the box and put it on its back, like he was demonstrating a prize on The Price is Right. And he took it out and put it on its back and then adjusted it. And he put it awkwardly, like he opened up the slot where you put the test fluid and like set it on that, which obviously was not a load-bearing part of it. He's just so strange.
And all of a sudden, boom, the people come into my office, they get tested. It takes them 5
That's how the
minutes,
test
and they
sounds.
feel very
Boom.
good. Some of them have never been tested. But these are,
Some of them have
equipment
never been tested. That's funny.
equipment and tests that nobody ever thought even possible 3 or 4 months ago are being used commonly now. I looked at the numbers, and we're over 6 million tests. And you add up everybody together, they don't have anywhere near that. So it's an incredible thing. And it would be great if the media could really portray it the way it is, because we've done some
Pardon this?
unbelievable work. And when somebody uses the word successful, I mean, it really has been successful. It's been very successful. But if you look at mortality and mortality rates,
Somebody
this
uses the
country
word
is a very
successful.
sad thing to be
Jared?
talking about. Whoever thought you'd be talking about such a thing 2 months ago was impossible. All we talked about was the economy, how well it was going. But today we have to talk about that. Our country has really stepped up. Our generals have stepped up, and our admirals have stepped up. By the way, Admiral has done a fantastic job, as you know.
2 months ago was the end of February. Everyone was talking about testing.
We're very proud of everybody. This whole room is
Very proud of everybody.
very amazing. Okay, who's next?
Mr. President, you have said that China is doing everything it can to make sure you don't get reelected. What specifically are they doing?
Well, China doesn't want to see me elected, and the reason is that we're getting billions and billions of dollars, many billions of dollars a month from China. China never gave our country anything. China gave us nothing, not 10 cents. And whether it was Biden in charge of China, which was a joke because they ripped off our country for 8 years. And in all fairness to Biden and Obama, this went on long before they got into office. I mean, you can go through many administrations until I came along. And then we signed a trade deal where they're supposed to buy, and they've been buying a lot, actually, but that now becomes secondary to what took place with the virus. The virus situation is just not acceptable.
Do you think that withholding information about the virus is related to them trying to undermine your reelection?
No, I don't want to put any cast any dispersions. I just will tell you that China.
That's
would
all
like
you
to
do.
See, sleepy Joe Biden. They would take this country for a ride like you've never seen before.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
I don't want to cast any dispersions, and then dispersion.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, yes.
Please.
Right, with the unemployment numbers coming out today, 30 million now unemployed, have you given any thought to possibly extending the $600 extra in unemployment benefits that are given out now? They will run out, and that will run out in July.
They are looking at it, and they're taking a very strong look, and we'll be reporting to you very shortly. I will say this, obviously, this is what it is. It's this period of time. But I think I view the third quarter as a transition quarter, and I think you're going to have a very strong transition, and then I think the fourth quarter is going to be incredibly successful. I think next year we're going to have a phenomenal year economically.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
You keep referring to China, but do you hold President Xi Jinping responsible for misinformation?
Well, I don't want to say that. But certainly it could have been stopped. It came out of China, and it could have been stopped, and I wish they stopped it, and so does the whole world wish they stopped it. John?
Mr. President, on unemployment, there are many businesses who are concerned that as America opens back up again, because of a provision in the CARES Act that gives an additional $600, they won't be able to get their employees back because they'll make more money staying at home than they would if they came back to work, which has caused some governors to suggest that they might strip those people of their unemployment insurance if they refuse to go back to work. Is that something you would support?
Well, we're looking at a lot of different things. I brought this up before it was done. This was a Democrat point, and I said, some people are going to be treated unfairly, and some people will be treated, they didn't get into the kind of formulas the way I saw it. I said exactly that this was going to happen, but when you think about it, it's basically we're being generous with people that it's short term, and we're being very generous with people that lost their jobs or potentially would lose their jobs. So it's not the biggest problem that I've ever heard of. They're getting a little bit more money. In some cases, they're getting more money than they thought they would have gotten. A lot of employees are saying now the job is more important because the employer is not going to forget that. And, but it was something that I brought up at the beginning, and nobody wanted to listen. Yeah, please.
Follow-up regarding...
Good point from Matt Random. It's casting aspersions, not dispersions. So just for those of you in the know, it is aspersions. He said dispersions because that's who he is. I don't want to cast any dispersions on him. That's not the phrase.
Joe Biden, your campaign and surrogates going after him pretty hard with regard to these allegations from Tara Reid. What do you say to Joe Biden?
So I don't think they're going after him hard with regard to Tara Reid.
Allegations, and what do you say to Joe Biden?
I don't know anything about it. I don't know exactly. I think he should respond. You know, it could be false accusations. I know all about false accusations. I've been falsely charged numerous times. And there is such a thing. If you look at Brett Kavanaugh, this is an outstanding man. He was falsely charged. What happened with him was an absolute disgrace to our country. And I guess 3 of the 4 women have now admitted that. And of the 4th, give me a break. I mean, take a look. 36 years. That is. Look, this is a fine man. I saw a man suffering so unfairly. I'm talking about Brett Kavanaugh. So, but I don't know. I can't speak for Biden. I can only say that I think he should respond. I think he should answer them.
Another question on Biden, Mr. President. Another question on Biden.
Thank you, sir. On China, a moment ago.
So this will be interesting moving forward through the election. If Biden ends up being the nominee, which will probably be the case, we'll see, because anything can happen. Does Trump continue to attack him on the accusation? Of course, Tara Reid, if you don't know, has accused Biden of, well, grabbing her by the pussy. And the man on the screen has bragged on tape about grabbing people. 2020 sucks.
A moment ago, you said that China, it's possible they could have chosen not to stop the spread of the virus. Are you insinuating they intentionally let it spread?
Well, they could have done it, and I'm just saying, well, one of 2 things happened. They either didn't do it, and they couldn't do it from a competence standpoint, or they let it spread. And I would say probably it got out of control. But there's another case that how come they stopped all the planes and all of the traffic from going into China, but they didn't stop the planes and the traffic from coming into the United States and from coming into all over Europe. I mean, look at Italy. Look what happened.
They did not. Travel continued in China. They locked down Wuhan and shut down the airports, but China travel had already spread throughout.
To Italy. And it's very lucky. This country is very lucky, and I'm very lucky that I put the ban on China. As you know, very early on in January, we put the ban on in China, and that was a very early date. That wasn't a late date. That was an early date. Then we later put the ban on in Europe. And if we didn't do that, as Alex knows, we would have had a problem like you wouldn't have believed.
I don't believe the problem we have now, and I don't believe that he put the ban on China in January, because he didn't. There is no ban on China. He still there were 11 loopholes of different types of people that could come in. So if you were a foreign national, you might have difficulty getting in. But again, 11 loopholes, you can read it. And the ban wasn't in effect until February 2nd at 5 p.m. And so there was a huge surge of people coming from China, or people who had recently come from China saying, man, I better get on a plane and get into the United States now, because for some reason the proclamation, which was signed on January 31st, had a 2-day window in it. So if you really wanted to get into the United States, you could. And then we now know that, of course, many people came over from Europe before the Chinese ban and way before the European ban, and that's what seeded the virus on the East Coast. So the deadliest attacks, the hot spots he always talks about with Jersey and New York and Florida, that virus, for the most part, came in from Europe, not from China.
We would have had a problem much bigger, but then you take a look at what happened to Italy. A lot of those people went to Italy instead.
No. Nobody who decided to go to the United States then decided to go to Italy instead. In fact, before February 2nd, on January 31st, Italy put in a total ban coming in from China. Not just some Chinese citizens and not only people who had nothing to do with trade. No travel from China. That's what Italy did. So no one looked at the United States and said, man, we were going to go to Disneyland. Let's go to the Vatican instead. It didn't happen.
It's been a very, very tough place, Italy.
And then on holding them accountable, is that something you prefer to do now in the next few weeks?
No, I don't want to do that. I want to find out what happened. I think we'll be able to get a very good, very powerful definition of exactly what happened. We're working on it strongly now, and I think it's going to be very powerful.
Very powerful definition. We're working on it strongly.
It. They are a very
it's the guy with the best words.
Nation,
scientifically and otherwise.
It got loose, let's say, and they could have capped it. They could have stopped it, but they didn't. But they stopped planes from going to China, but they didn't stop them from going to the rest of the world. What was that all about, Jim?
Just to help us out on this, to follow up on Jordan's question, you praised China in the past, and what's changed? When you tweeted, China's been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The U.S. greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well. What has changed between then, when you were saying those things about China, and now?
Well, what's changed is the following. We did a trade deal, and everybody was very happy. There's nobody ever been tough on China like I've been tough on China.
There's no trade deal.
Elected, at least partially, because
hasn't been ratified.
Borders and military and different things. But one of the things I'd say is how China and other countries are ripping us off. So recently, we signed a trade deal with China a number of months ago. China's buying billions of dollars worth of our product, our farm product and other product, manufacturing product, and it's been a great deal. But then we noticed a virus.
Hasn't actually started.
And it's not acceptable what happened. It came out of China, and it's not acceptable what happened. And now what we're doing, Jim, is we're finding out how it came out. Different forms. You know, you've heard all different things. You've heard 3 or 4 different concepts as to how it came out. We should have the answer to that in the not-too-distant future, and that will determine a lot how I feel about China. But when I was, of course, I was very rough with China. I mean, Biden, as an example, the previous administration, they let China rip off this country like nobody's ever ripped off this country. Now, what I did is
You know the way countries rip each other off, by building very cheap products and then selling them to the country so that the consumers can use them. Things like computer keyboards and microphones and this green screen behind me. That might come from the States. I don't even know. The bottom line is he has no comprehension of how trade actually works. One country doesn't rip off another country. One country creates goods and sells it to the other country so that the people of the other country can use it. That's the way trade works.
I took that, Jim, I took that and I made it into a great deal for our country. But after that, all of a sudden we heard there's a virus, and a virus is coming.
This is the virus. This is how the virus works.
That changes my mind very greatly.
That's why you have to wear a mask. See?
So you can have good trade deals. That was earlier on.
It's either a virus or Nemo.
Trade deal earlier on, and it's a great deal. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars of money in different forms, including the fact that we have a 25% tariff on $250 billion.
Which American brokers pay.
Money. Some of that money I've given to the farmers because they were targeted by China. And I gave $12 billion. I gave $16 billion. And this year we're going to be giving approximately $19 billion to the farmers. But
coronavirus.
Something happened. I don't say misleading or not. I'll let you know. Approximately $19 billion to the farmers. But well, something happened. Something happened. I don't say misleading or not. I'll let you know that. I mean, I'll be able to give you that answer at some point in the hopefully not too distant future.
So keep in mind what he says here. Something happened that the virus got loose. He's not going to say anything about it. He will tell you in the not too distant future. Wait about 5 minutes. Hey, if anybody wants to see the video of Trump setting up the Abbott testing machine on its back, let me know. I have it.
But I will tell you, you take a look at what happened to this world.
Wait. I'm going to tell you in the not too distant future, but I will tell you.
A month and a half, 2 months ago, we had the strongest economy in the history of the world, and all of a sudden I have to close the economy. I have to close the country.
two things. We didn't have the strongest economy in the history of the world. Our GDP was only 2.1%. We had $1 trillion deficit. If you've got the strongest economy, I'm sorry, you need to have a good GDP and you need to have a surplus. That's how economies work. That's very basic.
So we've had tremendous death and tremendous sorrow and sadness, and nobody's ever seen anything like it.
I mean, there was the 1917 flu that took place in 1918. I'm sure he'll get to that. I can't guarantee that, but he always has to go to the 1917 flu that happened in 1918. Okay, Yusu wanted to see the video of the Abbott test. So here, let me find it. I've got it. Give me a second. Here it comes. Okay, so here he is, taking it out of the box. There's Mr. Trump. I hope you guys can see this. And he opens up, for some reason, that's the part that you open up to put the test into, and then lays it on its back on the table and closes the box. He's the oddest human being.
Staff work in the last few months to expedite the availability of testing in this country. I'm also incredibly appreciative of private industry's ingenuity and willingness to work with us quickly to develop and distribute those tests.
Puts it on its back with the reservoir open.
With the authorization
Reservoir.
of point of care test.
Okay, so that was that. Okay, back to this.
And so have most of the
I hope you guys
countries
could
of the
see
world.
that.
Think of that. Most of the countries. 184, you tell me. It's probably low right now because I've been
It is
saying
low right now.
184 countries. They've suffered tremendously.
187 countries now.
It's
He's always
something
wrong.
that is going to have to be dealt with. Going to have to
Mr. President, on the issue of loss, Vice President, on the issue of loss, Vice President Biden has said
Loss?
we should lower the White House flag to half-mast. Are
Okay.
you going to do that? And are you thinking about leading the nation in a moment
Nobody
of
said
mourning?
that. I mean, I would not mind doing that. I would say not only the White House flag, we could do that. In fact, it's something that I will be talking about later on. We have a meeting on various things. That's one of the topics, and we're going to bring that up. So I think lowering the flags would be something very appropriate.
Thinking about leading the country, though, in a moment of mourning for all of the lives lost, the more than 60,000.
Well, it can be in the morning, it could be in the
I don't
afternoon.
think anybody can feel any worse than I do about all of the death and destruction.
Death.
That's so needless. Nobody. But I also have to make sure that we handle the situation well. Nobody's thinking about it more. Nobody has spent more time late in the evening thinking about what's happened to this country in a short period of time.
Let's just check that. Late in the evening last night, Trump tweeted 14 times. None of these tweets are about the coronavirus. Not one. But I think about it more than people who lost loved ones. But I did have to tweet some things. For example, happy birthday. Everybody likes a good birthday wish. So in between taking a break from thinking about the virus, because I was thinking about it strongly.
But at the same time, we have to get our country open again. And we're doing that step by step. Tennessee is an example. Step by step, we're opening up our country, and I really believe that next year we can be, maybe even beyond. We have a lot of stimulus, and maybe even beyond. We'll see about, by the way, Package 4, Phase 4. But I really hope that we can be as good or better. I built it once, and we're going to build it again. John?
Reminder, this was a question about loss of American life. I built it once, I can build it, right? We're going to be beyond.
Go ahead.
President, you said a moment ago you will soon have information on where this virus originated. The Director of National Intelligence today put out a statement saying that they believe it was naturally occurring, it was not man-made. But
Who is that? Who is that said that?
the Office of the Director of
Yeah,
National
but
Intelligence.
who in particular? Who was the man that made that statement?
It was a statement that the ODNI...
Oh, he would know that, huh? National Intelligence. So we'll see.
That would be your Director of National
Look at
Intelligence.
John. Did you see that? Look at John's face. He literally... Who put that out? The Director of National Intelligence. Oh, he would know that, huh? He would. John's just like what? He's He's your director of national intelligence. Let's watch that together again.
Who in particular? Who was the man that made that statement?
It was a statement that the ODI...
Oh, he would know that, huh? National intelligence. So we'll see.
That would be the director of national intelligence.
I think it's, I mean, you'd have to tell me who specifically, who made the statement.
The statement was just put out under the office of the ODI.
We'll see. I mean, I have to see the statement. I just haven't seen it.
But the question I had was, have you seen anything at this point?
Because we're looking at that, John, separately from...
Correct. But
we're looking at exactly where it came from, who it came from, how it happened, separately and also scientifically. So we're going to be able to find it.
And my question is, have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Oh, there it is. There it is. He's just told, even though the director of national intelligence issued a statement saying that it was man-made and doesn't appear to be manufactured in a lab, he's seen evidence of high confidence that he's not going to tell us about.
Yes, I have. And I think that the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves because they're like the public relations agency for China. And this country pays them almost $500 million a year, and China pays them $38 million a year. And whether it's a lot or more, it doesn't matter. It's still, they shouldn't be making excuses when people make horrible mistakes, especially mistakes that are causing hundreds of thousands of people around the world to die. I think the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves.
Just as you suggested, withholding federal aid from jurisdictions that are sanctuary cities, how serious is that consideration? Are you just...
Well, I have the right to do that, but sanctuary cities, especially at a time like this, that's a very dangerous thing. Our law enforcement hates it. They hate it. We want safe cities. We want sanctuary, but we want sanctuary for our citizens. And we don't want sanctuary for criminals that came into our country illegally, and they have big records and records. I won't go into the type of crimes, but the crimes are the ultimate in evil in many cases. No, we don't want them to have sanctuary in our country. We want to have strong borders. Look, I say it again, we want to have strong borders. I've been saying this for a long time, and I think people are agreeing with me. I really do. I think people are agreeing with me. The Democrats want to have open borders where people just come in. And you're not only talking about coming in from a crime standpoint, you're now talking about coming in with not only the disease that we happen to be talking about so much lately, but other diseases. And they want to have open borders. They want people to pour into our country from who knows where they come. No, we're not doing that. We have a very strong border now, our southern border. And every day it gets stronger because we're building miles a day of very, very powerful wall.
Oh, powerful
and that's
wall.
A great thing for our country.
The wall that fell over in the wind.
For our country. And very few people are arguing with it. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you often describe this fight against the virus as a war. How do you define victory?
So it is a war, and I define victory when it's gone and we open successfully. We have a successful country again. Now, it can never be a total victory because too many people have died. All over the world, people have died. In our country, in every country. I'm looking at the new list of countries. Look at what's going on with Russia. Look at what's going on with Spain is so incredibly harmed and injured by this. So many people are dying. This is not something where you'll go to your traditional this was an experience. This is
traditional G? Is that a new age thing? It sounds like do you wear something special for going to a traditional G?
This is not an experience. This is a very bad experience. But what I want is we want the virus gone, and we want to have a vibrant economy. We want people back. We don't want people necessarily sitting like these incredible people in front of me, where they're sitting 6 feet apart. Instead, I mean, I want our country back. I want people to go, out and see football games and baseball games and basketball and hockey and golf and all of these sports and not worry about getting sick.
Trump 2020.
Violently ill. One of the things that was very interesting, you probably saw it, we put it out before though, was Sweden. And you compared the deaths in Sweden to Denmark and Finland and Norway. And You know, I hate to say it, but the deaths are very, very substantially higher in Sweden because they've used that as an example. Brazil is very high. If you look at what's gone on, the graphically very, very high, very.
He only looks at graphs.
Almost, right, Deborah? Very straight up. A friend of mine, great gentleman, president of Brazil. He's really a friend of mine. He's a great
traditional
man,
ghee.
but they're having a hard time. They're going herd. Sweden went herd, but you know when they say herd, it's really. In Sweden in particular,
they want to go herd.
The bars you can't go to, certain areas you can't go to. A lot of the people are saying, well, the prime minister doesn't have to say stay in your apartment, stay in your house. They're staying there. They're not leaving. So, you know, it's really not quite what was reported, but the number of deaths are tremendous in Sweden compared to the countries that surround where they did very strong lockdowns. And we were discussing that, Deborah, before. It's a very big difference. It's a very
That's
big
actually
difference.
True.
But again, Sweden didn't go really
yes, Sharpie doctored
herd,
graphs,
as you
Airbus.
Understand it. And also the people of Sweden, very smart. They're staying in their houses. They're not going out and now, are some? Yeah, I guess, some. But they've lost a lot of people in Sweden. Yes, John?
Mr. President, can I just come back to the...
Yeah, I'll get you in a second.
Can I get back to what we were talking about just a second ago?
Sure.
I missed in the interruption. Are you suggesting that maybe you have some evidence that this was not a naturally occurring virus?
We're going to see what it is. You're talking about the virus and
Correct.
where it came from?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the virus. You know how he said the virus? The naturally occurring virus? Oh, you're talking about what? Cocaine? Because I don't know anything. I don't know anything about any cocaine, officer.
No, we're going to see where it is. We're going to see where it comes from. And, you know, look, you know every theory. You had the theory from the lab. You had the theory from many the bats, and the type of bat. And
the 40-mile bat?
It's 40 miles away, so it couldn't have been here, and it couldn't have been there. And we have a...
He's been watching a lot of OAN Network, the Conspiracy Network, and reading Drudge Report, and just going way deep down some... I was going to say rabbit holes, but bat caves seems more appropriate.
There's a lot of theories. But, yeah, we have people looking at it very, very strongly.
Strongly? Yes, strongly.
Scientific people, intelligence people, and others.
And what gives
and
you...
we're going to put it all together. I think we're going to have a very good answer.
Scientific people. Scientific people. If only there were a name for scientific people. Sciencers.
Might even tell us. China may tell us.
And what gives you a high degree of confidence that this originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology?
I can't tell you that. I'm not allowed to tell you that.
Not allowed.
President?
Jeff, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, would you consider having the United States not pay its debt obligations to China as punishment for the virus?
Well, I can do it differently. I can do the same thing, but even for more money just by putting on tariffs. So I don't have to do that, you know. It's approximately $1 trillion, a little bit more as I understand it, $1 trillion. But we can do that in a, I think probably a little bit of a more forthright manner. You start playing those games.
Scientician.
You know, we have the dollar to protect. We want to protect the sanctity of the dollar, the importance of the dollar. It's the greatest currency in the history of the world. It's become stronger. We have a very strong dollar. That's why we're borrowing at zero interest rate. You know, with all of the stimulus that we're talking about, that sounds good though, General, doesn't it? We're paying zero interest, so essentially right around zero, but zero.
Wait,
and you
is
want
he?
to protect. It's a very good question. You know, you say, "Oh, gee, we owe you a certain amount of money. We're going to keep it." But when you start playing that game, you're really hurting the sanctity, the importance of the greatest currency on earth.
The sanctity of the dollar.
We can do it in other ways. We can do it with tariffs. We can do it other ways, even beyond that, without having to play that game. That's a rough.
James, they haven't proved that it was created in a Wuhan lab. It's a naturally occurring virus. Man did not create this thing. Genetically, we have the entire makeup of its RNA. There's nothing in there that says it was created in a lab. Moving on.
Speaker, on a separate topic but related, Speaker Pelosi said that she envisions up to $1 trillion needed to help support states and localities. Would you support that figure?
So what's happening is the Democrats have come to us and they'd like to do a phase 4, and we'll think about what's happening. They want to help the states. They want to help bailouts, and you know bailouts are very tough, and they happen to be Democrat states. It's California, it's New York, it's Illinois. You start with those three. And the Republican states are in strong shape.
Just so you know, this is a map. 40 states last year had trouble paying their bills. Let's see if I can find it here. I can't. I made it go away. So, see if I have it here. Okay, no, I don't. Basically, 4 out of 5 states can't pay their bills, and most of them are Republican.
You know, I don't know. Is that luck or is that talent? Or is it just a different mentality? But the Republican-run states are in strong shape.
They are not.
Look, I looked today.
I'll find it.
When I spoke with Ron DeSantis, who was here yesterday, as I said, and Florida's doing incredibly. Texas is doing incredibly. These states are doing unbelievably. They don't know about the word bailout. We had a call from a governor of South Dakota, and they have one of the finest run states. They have I think a constitutional amendment. They're not allowed to, they have to have a balanced budget, and they have a totally balanced budget. They just have a sales tax. It's about the only tax they have is a sales tax. I mean, think of that. So it's a whole different thing. But Republican states are doing very well. Maybe the Democrats should have brought this up earlier when we wanted certain things. And they did, and we said, and I said specifically, no, let's look at it later.
Maybe they should have brought it up earlier, and they did.
On down the road, but they'd like to do something. They want to do infrastructure. I can understand infrastructure. Think of it. We've spent $8 trillion in the Middle East, and we're not fixing our roads in this country. How stupid is it? And we're not fixing our highways, our tunnels, our bridges, our hospitals even, our schools even.
Well,
it's crazy. But they want to do things, and the Republicans are in a much better position from, I don't want to use the word negotiating position, but we really are. We're in a negotiating position that's different because they want to bail out various states. Illinois is in big trouble. The governor understands that. Pritzker, he understands that, but Illinois is in big trouble. Is it fair to do that and then have states that are very powerful and strong like Iowa and Idaho? I mean, take Idaho. Look at all of these incredible states and look at what's going on and how successful they are. So you just take a look, and we're going to look at it. We're going to look at it. I think we want to take a little bit of a pause. But if we do that, we'll have to get something for it. Okay?
So just
Kristen, go ahead.
a question on masks, but very quickly to follow up on Jeff. It sounds like you're potentially open to Leader McConnell's call that states should apply for bankruptcy. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just, it's an idea that he has. He threw that out as an idea. I've spoken to him about it very strongly.
It's an idea that he has.
We're going to see what happens. We'll take a little bit of a pause. We'll see what happens. But some states are in trouble. I spoke today. I was with a wonderful man, a great gentleman, a wonderful human being. I think Bill knows him too, from New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy. And we talked about it. New Jersey is it's a wonderful state, I have to say. It's a wonderful place, but it's got a lot of difficulty in terms of the economics and the debt, the costs, etc.
I just want to say hi to John Krepner. John, thanks for increasing my visibility by you watching me. It then encourages both Twitter, Twitch, and I believe YouTube as well to feature my videos. So tell all your friends, bring them in here. Thanks, John Krepner. Thanks for supporting me.
So it's in a different position than some of the other states that we could mention. We could mention them all day long.
Let me ask you about masks, if I could. Vice President Pence did not wear one when he visited the Mayo Clinic earlier this week. He's wearing one today. You are traveling to Arizona. Will you wear a mask? What is the policy for you and the Vice President?
Well, I'm going to have to see. I am going to Arizona. I look forward to that. I'll have to see the climate. I mean, I'm going to look at, see, where I am. Here's a place that we all feel very comfortable. Everybody's spread out. It's a very big room. But as far as where I'm going in Arizona, I'm going to have to look at the climate. I'd have no problem.
Does he mean the weather? It's going to be too hot in Arizona to wear a mask? Is that what he's saying? Because the climate in Arizona is not something that you have to take a look at. Anyway, again, Trump doesn't understand the difference between climate and weather. This is nothing new, folks.
Problem wearing a mask. I don't know. I'm supposed to make a speech. I just don't know. Should I speak in a mask? You're going to have to tell me if that's politically correct. I don't know. If it is, I'll speak in a mask. But I'm going to be making a speech in Arizona. I look forward to it.
The safety of others is political correctness.
And depending on the conditions, I would have no problem wearing a mask. We have millions of masks now. You know, we have masks coming in that, there was another thing. I mean, it was very hard to get masks. We now have, and we're making millions and millions of masks. They're opening plants, and it's been incredible.
Changed your position because
Go ahead, please.
The chairman of the Federal Reserve has said that the economic recovery is going to be long and slow. You have said that it's going to bounce back quickly. What do you know that he doesn't know?
Well, I didn't hear what he said. I can only tell you that I see it. I think it's going to be a transition quarter, the third quarter. I think the fourth quarter is going to be very good, and I think next year is going to be fantastic because of the stimulus. And I haven't seen a statement, but I think we're going to have a great year next year, knowing that we left behind a year of...
Does anybody know what stimulus he's talking about? Is he talking about the $1,200 check that some of us got and others, for example... Kevin Lee Daughter hasn't received hers, and I can't seem to fix it. Is that the stimulus he's talking about? There is no stimulus as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be.
Tremendous death. Tremendous death. It was just a terrible thing. The likes of which we haven't seen. I guess if you go back
1917?
over 100 years, 1917.
There it is. It's 1918, just so you know, 1918.
But, that was close, depending on your account,
every time.
The account, anywhere from 50 to 100 million.
That's the scariest part, is there's nobody in his circle, even the doctors, who take 30 seconds to say, actually, sir, it was 1918 that the flu came around. The Spanish flu. You can even call it that. It's acceptable because, you know, we named it 100 years ago, and it was okay to do that back then, like the German measles. That's the scary part.
People died, 1917. So we haven't seen it. It's over 100 years. And so understanding that that was terrible, I think that next year from an economic standpoint, I mean, look at the stock market. People are amazed. The stock market's at
it's
over
down
24,000.
No, it's not.
No, it was at 29,000. It's 24,000 now. Is that even possible considering what we've gone through? Because people are very smart. Many of these people are very brilliant, and they look and they see a great future. The other thing, the dollar is very strong. So when we
down
go out
288.
and do stimulus packages, we're
to
oversubscribed
24.3.
at zero. Think of it. You get your money back at zero. It's a pretty incredible thing. The euro's having a hard time, and it's much smaller. The dollar has really become, the dollar is king, and the dollar's at a position now. It's just it's a very powerful thing, the dollar. Other currencies are in big trouble. They're really in big trouble, whereas the dollar is very powerful, very strong. So the good part about that is if you do go out and if we do want to do stimulus or whatever we want to do, we're borrowing at zero and the dollar is very strong. Okay, Jim? Yeah, Jim?
Back to what John was asking about the possibility that this virus came out of a lab in China. Are you insisting, or would you insist on China allowing U.S. investigators into that lab to make sure?
I don't want to go into that. We're going to see. So far, I think China's been trying to be, or at least they seem to be trying to be somewhat transparent with us.
The dollar is king of the ventilators, Airbus. That's the way that
works.
We're
going to find out. You'll be learning in the not too distant future. But it's a terrible thing that happened. Whether they made a mistake or whether it started off as a mistake and then they made another one, or did somebody do something on purpose? Say, hey, you know, I don't understand how.
This is his conspiracy. Somebody did something on purpose, saying, hey, and release the virus into the world. That's how it happened in Trump's head. Hey.
Or whether it started off as a mistake and then they made another one, or did somebody do something on purpose? Say, hey, you know, I don't understand how how people weren't allowed into the rest of China, but they were allowed into the rest of the world. That's a hard question for them to answer. Yeah, please.
Because it's
President,
nonsense.
Have you got an update on his condition and whether he is alive or dead?
Well, I understand what's going on, and I just can't talk about Kim Jong-un right now. I just hope everything is going to be fine. But I do understand the situation very well, please.
Going back to when you talked about being complimentary of China early on, were you saying that you were complimentary of China because you were concerned about the trade
Well, I'm
deal?
making a trade deal with China. This was before the virus. Of course they're going to be complimentary. Now, I was very uncomplimentary prior to that negotiation. And then every once in a while, the negotiation would break down because I'm not like Kerry, who signed the worst deal, the Iran deal, which was such a disaster. And he never left the table. I left the table a lot. Anyway, we ended up making a deal. And of course, during the course of the deal, I was both complimentary and very uncomplimentary. But the bottom line is we ended up making a deal before the virus came. And I was very happy with the deal. But then later on, that was superseded by a virus that should not have happened. Well, I just want to thank you all very much, and we'll see you probably tomorrow sometime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay. So that was today. That was Trump. And he has information about, he says he understands the situation with Kim Jong-un very well, and won't tell us about it. And then he has intelligence about the Wuhan virus and won't tell us about it. And then he did, but won't give us the specific intelligence because he can't. He's not allowed to, even though he's the president. And yeah, there goes the afternoon. It is 4:04 here, which means that it's 5 o'clock Mountain Time. So please, friends, find yourself a happy hour at home and enjoy. I don't even know what the takeaway from that is. I have no idea what. Just a whole bunch of more nonsense, and I'm going to tune into the news channels now and see what people are talking about, because bats can't fly 40 miles, and so it's impossible that so he's gone hardcore, even though the director of national intelligence has said it is a man-made, they'll cut that and take it out of context. Heavenly Father says that it's not a man-made, not a laboratory manufactured virus. Yeah, the takeaway is that he is insane, Kathleen. You're very welcome, Kathleen. Can't give out health information about his boyfriend. Yeah, they've got a real bromance going on. He must be heartbroken. Actually, I shouldn't even making fun of the guy, because right now, I mean, that's his BFF. Here's my theory on this. Trump, you never hear the phrase Trump's childhood friend. All the other presidents, Bush and Obama, Carter especially, you can go back and look at people that just like to hang out with them. I'm not talking about Roger Stone in his late 40s. I'm talking about people as kids. But you never see Trump with friends. There's one guy that, they use the family pool. That's the only friend that Trump had as a child. I mean, they had to send him away to boarding school, and the kids there hated him. He's just kind of been douche his entire life. And so now it's all about popularity. It's all about friendships. It's all about relationships with other governors, or between the governors, between him and a governor. It's all about relationships. And as long as you can say nice things about him, like John Bell Edwards did a couple of days ago, and like Gavin Newsom does constantly, which I don't begrudge him at all, because he gets stuff for the state. That's what you have to do. You have to play the game. It'll be interesting after the election, God willing, if Trump loses, to hear everyone come out of the woodwork and talk about how they had to hold their nose and shake his hand. Anyway, childhood, yeah. I don't want to cast any dispersions on the man, but he's not very likable. Speaking of likable, I love you all. I mean it. And maybe we'll see you tomorrow.